Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Don Cody, your host. Today, I'm interviewing Ileen Dillon. Ileen is 82 years old and definitely a successful senior. She's a credentialed psychotherapist and family counselor, a sought-after public speaker, and an 8-time best-selling author. One of the things you notice about Ileen as soon as you meet her is she's highly independent and extremely resilient. So I can't wait for you to meet Ileen Dillon. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Don Cody, your host, and today I'm here with Ileen Dillon, and I can't wait for her to tell you her story. But first, I'm going to welcome her. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Same here. Same here. Listen, before you tell us what you're doing today, and I can't wait to hear it again, but I'd like you to tell us just a little bit about how you got here. I know you've got a very storied past and a lot to talk about, but I want you to hit kind of the highlights for us so we know how you ended up where you're at. You have the floor.
Well, I'm a psychotherapist. I'm in my 54th year now. And like most psychotherapists, I had a very challenging childhood. In fact, I think I had a very challenging childhood that included losing my birth mother and living in boarding schools when I was 3 and traveling in a military family and so forth. I attended 14 different school systems before I got out of high school, for example. Which was a challenge, but my father always insisted we do well, so I learned. I got interested in doing what I'm doing right now as a result of a very difficult time, of course. And that was that my first husband, whom I'd married when I was 19, decided on my very first Mother's Day when I was 29 that he didn't want to be a father. And he left me and our 10-month-old daughter saying he wanted a divorce.
Okay.
And that, frankly, really pissed me off. And so
I can appreciate that.
but I had because we consciously created her. And so I didn't realize how much anger I had inside of me. It just kept erupting and erupting. And the only person who was around me was my little daughter. And I thought, I can't give her a childhood with a parent like this. So I started trying to figure out what anger was all about. Why do we have anger? What's it for? How can you work with it? Can you get rid of it? Those kinds of things. And I went everywhere. I had just gotten my master's degree from the School of Social Welfare at the University of California in Berkeley.
Wait, you're a single mom and
Right.
you got a master's degree?
Uh-huh.
You are definitely an overachiever.
You ain't heard nothing yet. Anyway, I had just gotten my master's degree and I went back to the library where they talked all about mental illness and problems and trying to work with the research librarians to find out the answers to my questions. And we found out after 2 or 3 days of hunting, there were no answers to my questions because social science researchers of that day, and I think there's a tendency to do it even now, were not, they weren't researching emotions separate from diagnostic, from diagnosing. Like if you were schizophrenic and anger was part of schizophrenia, then you'd talk about anger a little bit, but you didn't know anything about anger.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, I got to find something out about this because I can't keep doing what I'm doing, which was exploding and being angry about everything. And so I started searching. I talked with colleagues. I read books. I went into individual and group psychotherapy. I took Aikido classes. I went to spiritual awareness classes. I did everything. Talk about being an overachiever, but I was determined. And it took me about 9 years, and I finally began to get some answers. And I used those answers in my own life. And because I was a practicing therapist, I had clients that had similar issues. So I said, would you like to try what is working for me now? And we found out that it worked for them also. And so over time, I kept working with this until I developed an understanding of emotions altogether, not just anger, but the idea that emotions are not there's emotions are energy, and they are given to us to help us decode the things that we need to learn in life. And when you work with them that way, your life gets better. The amount of out of control emotion gets smaller. And so I began to uh, start teaching people about
What
emotions.
a great insight, though, to be able to say emotions help us to decode what's going. That's amazing.
Right. Well, it goes along with what I now work with, which is the idea of the earth as a giant school. That it helped. I
So
mean,
is
yeah, that we most people know this, but they don't work with it. And I'm
mm,
very practical, very impatient. I find that a lot of times the way people work with emotions, if they put a lid on it and they learn how to get through it by doing breathing or meditation, but they don't get to the cause of it. And when you
mm,
get to the cause of it, then there's something there for you to learn. And as soon as you learn what there is connected to that anger or that emotion, it's over. You don't keep repeating it. Otherwise, we repeat and repeat and repeat the same issue.
and
And
most people's life look like Groundhog Day.
right. And so that's a big part of my message today. And I particularly want to talk about it today because we've been in this state of upheaval now for quite a while. And I know lots of people, I can't tell you, two people this week that I've heard of who committed suicide. People are not doing well. And they're kind of losing hope. What's the point? And so a big part of the message I want to give today is it's there for us to work out. We have the abilities to work it out, but we haven't always had the right information or been taught how to work with the information that we have. And that's the biggest part of what it is that I'm doing in the world. I
So I want to take a moment, Eileen. Forgive me for interrupting, because
no
I
problem.
know that so much to say. I want people to understand who's speaking, though. So could you cover? Because I know a bit more about your background. You've got 9 books, 8 books.
Well, I've done 8 bestsellers. They're collaborative books, like the one
They're
behind me,
best-selling, right? Because
and
you've had
and
a
I
lot of
have
great ones.
right, and I have my own book. This is the Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self Care. There are 6 of those books, and I have chapters in 5 of them.
I see.
I couldn't relate to the goddess book. I don't think of myself as a goddess, so I
Okay.
couldn't do it.
Okay.
I also
You have
have been part of a manipulation book, a wisdom book, and I just Monday turned in a chapter for it's called Joy Unleashed.
I love it. I
So
love it.
yeah,
But you also are a public speaker. So, but you've got a unique way that you would go about that. You had a really big, beautiful house that you don't have anymore. Tell us a little bit about that part of the
oh,
story. I think it's
oh, you want
fascinating.
that part of the story? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I I've been married 3 times. First when I was 19, then again when I was about 35, and then when I was 57. And my husband, Bob, whom I married when I was about 57, was a brain surgeon, and he had a nice, beautiful, big
Like
house.
legit, Blaine, like legit a brain
A
surgeon.
neurosurgeon, Robert
Oh,
Fink.
wow.
People
Oh,
could look him
wow.
up. He's
Wow.
no longer living. He died in 2016, unfortunately, but we were together more than just over 20 years, which was wonderful. And when I was dating him, I said, "Do you think I could ever see you do a brain surgery?" Thinking I'd be looking through a mirror or a window. And he said, "Oh, I always wanted a woman I'm involved with to come see me do brain surgery." And he took me into his operating room
In the operating room.
for 4 different operations. And it was
Wow.
absolutely fascinating. And in addition to his skill and what the body looks like, one of the main things I noticed was that once he cut through the skin, everybody was the same color.
Mm.
And that was very
A
profound.
very
And I was
important thing.
hoping everybody could see that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, he got,
What's ironic for me about that is my wife is black, and and of course I'm some shade of white, of course. But she says has said since I've known her 15 years. She said we're all pink, really. We're all
yes.
pink.
And my husband said things like that too. He said, there really is nobody who's actually white. You
No.
know, you're all shades of different things. Unfortunately, he got prostate cancer and he died at home after about 5 years. That's a whole nother story. I've always been a solopreneur on my own, etc. And a dear friend of mine showed up 2 months before my husband was diagnosed and stayed with us for 5 years and helped us through the process and through his
Wow.
death. And that was an amazing experience to share that with somebody I already cared about. At any rate, when my husband died, I had this nice big house and I thought, oh, I'll just sit here for a year and, go through my grief. Well, the first thing was my daughter had been working in Ecuador for 10 years, running a maternal health program for indigenous families in the jungle. And she was coming back to go to graduate school, and neither of her parents had been down to see what she was
Yeah.
doing. So 2 months after my husband died, I got on a plane and went to Ecuador, just as
Wow.
they were having a big earthquake. And fortunately, what I found in Ecuador was Ecuador has this almost like a throbbing heart. It healed my heart to go there.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I was once again, I'm going to sit around. And my wonderful son, we speak very plainly with one another, came to me one day and said, so, Mom, how old are you? And at the time I was 73. He said, how long do you think you're going to live? And I said, well, quite a while, I don't know, Netflix. And he said, well, how much money do you have? And by the way, how do you want to spend that money? You want to keep paying taxes on this house? Or do you want to do something different? And I said, how about something different? So I actually spent that year cleaning out that house, preparing it for sale. I sold it. I'm right now in what I did after that, which is I bought an RV. And in 2017 in May, I took off for environs unknown, and I've been on the road since 2017 in my 24-foot Sprinter van, leisure van RV.
And folks, you can do the math. She was 74 at the time when you bought the RV?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm 82 now.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
we don't have to do the math. We know.
Oh,
But you've been
sorry.
traveling around as a single woman in an RV. Most people would say that's pretty dangerous or scary or whatever. How have you found it?
I found it absolutely wonderful. And
Wow.
the work that I did on emotions, I think, is what has made the difference for me.
Okay.
Because emotions are energy. We can't get rid of them. So I'll always have a little feeling of loneliness or a little feeling of anger or a little feeling of fear. But I also know now how to work with those things. For example, I was in Colorado near Telluride, and I was going up a mountain like this with a drop off of about 4,000 feet on the side. And it was pouring rain. And I noticed that I started feeling frightened. And I went, wait a minute, this is not the way I want to drive this van. So I said, what do you do if you were in faith instead of fear? What would you be paying attention to? And I said, I'd be paying attention to how beautiful it is and what a great opportunity it is to go through. I started doing that and the fear went away. All right.
Wow.
So,
Is there really anything else besides fear and faith, right? It just seems like it's all there really is.
well, it's nice to be in charge of it. So the bottom line, and also part of what I've learned, Don, is that what we have inside of us, we tend to attract from outside of us. And I didn't know that for many years. I used to cry myself to sleep. I felt lonely. Nobody loved me. I believed I was unlovable.
Yeah.
And about, 15 or 15, 20 years ago, I decided, wait a minute. why don't I keep looking for love outside of us, outside of me. That's what we're all taught to do.
Right.
And number one, all I'm going to find out there is somebody else who thinks they have to look for love outside of them. They don't have enough either. Okay. And, and so I thought, well, wait a minute. What if I just fill my own self up with love? At least I'll have a little bit and it'll be mine and nobody can take it away from me. So I
How
asked,
brilliant.
what?
I said, how brilliant.
So I asked a friend who gave me a little technique for starting to love myself, which very simply is to start envisioning a baby animal or a human baby and feeling the love that you feel
Very
for
nice.
that infant and with your eyes closed. And then after a while, you let that image go and put yourself in the baby's place and keep sending the same kind of love energy to yourself. And when I first started it, I could do it for about 5 or 10 seconds. That's
Wow.
how much I could, But now I feel quite a bit filled up with love, and my life is so different. I can't begin to tell you. And I believe when I'm filled up with love, what I attract from outside, what you have inside is actually reflected to you from the outside. So you ask me how I do when I'm alone on the road. I have great, wonderful, loving experiences. People take care of me. They invite me to dinner. I met some people on the road and they invited me to their house. I've been there 3 times.
Here's what's amazing. That's gold right there, because what people don't realize is, everybody's heard the term about charismatic people. Oh, they're magnetic, right? We're all magnetic. All of us. We're
Right.
attracting what we put out there all the time. And this is brilliant for you to let everybody know that. But this little technique about loving yourself, because I believe there's self-love is pretty darn rare. And there's an epidemic of people that don't know how to do it. And you just gave the keys to the kingdom right there.
Well, my contention is that we're all fully loved and full of love and and high self-esteem and all these things when we and a good sense of ourselves when we arrive on the earth. But I know my life is a good example of how what you run into when you're here on the earth starts eroding it.
Unlearn it.
And you get it covered up by things and you lose your faith in it because people do or say things.
Right.
And so for me, I've just discovered it's part of our job here on the earth is to replenish, to build it up again. And it's really not difficult, but you do have to decide that you plan to do it and you need to stick with it. The nice thing about learning new habits is you don't have to, you only have to do something every day over and over for 3 weeks to set up a new habit. It might not even take a person very long. It took me a little longer because I had so many assaults on the love that I felt. But I made it.
So I have a theory, and you're an expert in this, so I hope to get your opinion here. So I feel like this whole self-love thing is like a major, major issue, but I feel like we're creators of love. Like we can generate love, right? And if we all kind of the position that so many people out there don't feel loved, if we fill ourselves up so much that it spills over, then we can then share that with other people. So how wonderful would it be if it were true that you could just fill yourself up with love, like you talked about, so much so that you could give it away. And here's what I've found. The more I give the love away, the more I feel loved. It's just a kind of phenomenon. It doesn't seem like it should make sense, but if you keep giving it away, keep loving other people in that brotherly love kind of way, you can't get it all away. It just keeps coming back.
But I think, at least my experience was, that we have, many people have been taught to give love away, and we give it away when we don't have it inside of us. So we get to a deficit and we don't trust it.
Interesting.
Okay. So the thing that we really need to do first is love ourselves, make sure
Right.
we love. And I
Fill your
agree
cup
with
up.
you that it spills over, but it spills over automatically. You don't even have
You
to
have to
do
do
it.
anything. Right.
And you run into somebody and you just want to help. You just want to give. And as you do that, like have traveled quite a bit and people complain, oh, it's so terrible in airports. People treat you so badly. I can't tell you how nicely and wonderfully people treat me in airports, for goodness sake. You know, people I've never seen before. And I don't think it's just because they see me as an older woman. They just are loving and kind. And it wasn't like that my whole life.
Yeah, it does seem to be like to use your words, it does seem to be a reflection, like whatever I just flew through 2 airports last week and
Mm,
you know, I tend to be social, right? So I'll see something that I can comment on and I'll say, well, that's fascinating. How do you do that or whatever? And first thing you know, I'm in a conversation and most people think, everybody's kind of in their own little world and they don't want to talk to anybody else and everything like that. And I don't find that because I can pretty much start up a conversation with anybody and
absolutely.
all being I'm an introvert by nature. So it takes effort for me to do that, but I do it intentionally for that same
Mhm.
reason. It's a way to show people they're loved and they're cared about.
I did it. It was painful for me. I was very shy for many years. And I didn't feel like I had anything of interest to say to anybody. And I was a member of a church where they sometimes gave you messages. And the minister one day said to me, you do understand that shyness is the extreme form of self absorption, don't you?
Oh, hello.
And I started thinking about that. And when you're shy, you're thinking, what are other people thinking about me? And
So
guess what? They're not.
they're not.
They're not. They're busy thinking, what are you thinking about them? And that's where this technique that you just described comes in. We exchange energy as human beings. And if energy comes in the form of attention, that's what you're doing. You pay attention to somebody. You say, oh, I like that shirt with the dots on it. I had one like that when I was in Israel or wherever, and then you have a commonality and people want to talk to you. And after you practice it for a while, at least in my experience, it just comes out automatically. I say something about what's going on in their experience. I appreciate something I see about them that I'm thinking about. And people just love it. They just love it. Lick it up. They just love it because it's energy in the form of attention that is kind energy. It's loving energy. Who doesn't like that?
I know. I just learned this technique in the last couple of days. So instead of asking a question, make a statement because
Hmm.
people feel like when you ask them, I heard someone say it and I thought that's so true. You ask
Yeah.
someone a question, they think they need to get the answer right. So they're
Hmm.
kind of subconscious. But if you just go, great sneakers, they'll
Hmm.
tell you all about their sneakers, and you're in a conversation. You don't even have to say, "Hey, where'd you get those sneakers?" Or just
Exactly.
great sneakers. And that's usually what I'll do. And I was doing it naturally, and then I went, "Oh my gosh, look at that! That's really great."
And if you're in an airport, something like that. And recently, I flew into Charlotte, North Carolina, on a trip to New Jersey, and and we had all kinds of. They were having weather patterns between where we were and where we were going, and people were kind of rattling around. And I started talking with one or two women. The next thing you know, there was this line of wheelchairs at the side of the room, sort of room we were in. Oh, probably 8 women pulled wheelchairs up in a circle, and we all talked together to while the time away. We had a great time, and it just started by going, man, this is really a challenge. And one woman said, yeah, and my family's already there. And the other person was going, well, I used to be an air airline attendant and this kind of thing. I mean, we were just off to the races. We spent maybe
Amazing.
3 hours doing that.
Social interaction.
And it was
One of the
great.
things.
Yes.
But you had a topic that you wanted to talk about, and I derailed you a little bit to talk about the background, but I wanted people to know who's speaking to them. You're a multi-best-selling author. You've got you've got more letters after your name than I've ever seen. It's crazy. I like 42 different. It's crazy. But this is no ordinary woman, folks. This is a brilliant lady that has something important to say. When I'm going to let her say it.
Okay. Well, just to straighten about the letters, I have 2 licenses in the state of California. One is a clinical social worker and one is a marriage and family counselor. And the only reason I have 2 is that I started out as a marriage and family counselor and the insurance companies didn't reimburse me for my services. And I had a master's degree in clinical social work. So I studied up and went and took the exam and got a second license. And not very many people have that, but that's the only one. Yeah, right. So, you know, I don't have as much time as I once had. I'm quite aware of that, although my health is good and my brain seems to be working well. But I have been privileged, Don, to learn, and I've told you this personally, but I've been privileged to learn these things about emotion. Also, the Earth's Giant School, to be able to tell people, listen, it's not that things are going wrong, it's that you have things to learn. So whatever experience you have is bringing to your attention what it is that you need to learn. And the emotion you feel with that experience is giving you a message that says, look here to figure out the lesson. And in my book, Emotions in Motion, Mastering Life's Built-in Navigation System, which is on Amazon, I list the message of 12 different emotions if anybody's interested to follow it up. But, you know, I have decided that I'm out to change human consciousness for the next 2,000 years. That's what I'm doing.
Small task.
Well, it's kind of a joke. Way long ago, I was in a meditation group and we had a direct, our leader was a direct voice medium. And the voice that came through, we asked him what his name was. And he said, you can call me Simon. So here are these people in a group every week. And during the week after they've learned something from him, they're saying, Simon says this, Simon says that.
It's funny. Just too funny.
Right. It says, and that was
up your nose.
Right. Anyway, it was a wonderful experience, but I have information. I'm living the life. During COVID, people contacted me, some of them 40 years before I had worked with them. And the things that I was able to help them learn were still in place and operating powerfully in their lives. So I have a lot of faith in what it is that I've been able to uncover. It's fairly simple, and we're all designed to work with emotions. Now, we're all moving. A lot of people are saying we're all moving to a new state of consciousness, a kinder, more empathetic state of consciousness. And and we're moving into what is called the energy body. Yeah. And if emotions are energy, can you think of a faster way to help you move into your energy body than to work every day with the energy that's there 24/7, 365, birth to death? Yeah. Right? And so that's my job, is to bring to people's awareness, to give them the processes, the ways that things work, so that they can realign with emotions and work with them. They are designed to help us. There is no such thing as a negative emotion. It's like saying water is negative. You know, it can behave negatively if it gets out of control. It can be destructive. So can emotions. But in and of itself, it's not negative. So emotions are there to help us. That's what they're designed to do. Did you ever know about schmooze?
I've used the word many times.
Well, Al Capp was a cartoonist who had a cartoon in the newspaper years and years ago. And he created these things called schmooze. They look like little bowling pins. Is what they look like, except they had faces. And schmooze had this wonderful, wonderful quality. They could transform themselves into anything, and it was their desire to transform themselves into whatever anybody needed. And that's the way emotions operate also. They're there to serve us, to transform, to move where we need to move. And I'm out to teach the world, change the consciousness, so that this lasts for generations and generations. And sadly, I mean, maybe somebody will watch this show and say, oh, that's the same way I work with emotions. But frankly, I haven't found anybody in 54 years of being a therapist, being a professional speaker around the world, writing. I haven't found anybody. And so I figure this is my job. I'm looking for people who might want to work with me. I'm looking for people who might want to donate money to help me set up a center. My idea is that I will teach people who are already interested in emotions and ready to make personal changes, and we will coach them so that it becomes part of who they are. And then those people will be teaching others, and we'll go out like that. That's my picture.
Yeah, I think you met him. You just don't know it yet. I can help you with that.
Good.
That's easy. And I will absolutely help you with that. So everybody, stay tuned for the follow-up. Stay tuned for the follow-up podcast where we bring Ileen back onto the show and talk about the center.
Right. And I have been getting bigger. You and I talked about perhaps serving successful seniors, which is a large group of people. And I'm also just now with the Wellness Universe starting to work with women, professional, international soccer players.
Okay.
Because part of my idea is that I want to get further out in the world. So I'm taking whatever opportunity gets me out in me and my message out in the world.
Well, certainly you're a successful senior, so you qualify to be on this show for sure. But what you have that some people don't have, so a lot of my guests have really interesting stories, but they don't necessarily have something that they could directly help the audience that we serve. But you definitely do, and I'm super excited about that. So how does someone get to work with you if they wanted you to help them with their emotional challenges?
Okay. Well, I don't have my center set up yet, but I still am doing some coaching online through Zoom. And my website is emotionalmasteryforlife.com. And my email is Ileen, Ilene, at emotionalmasteryforlife.com.
And folks, if you're watching, don't worry about writing that down. It's going to be in the, Eileen's given me that information. It's going to be in the show notes. It'll be a link to click just to go to her website. And if you want to email her, her email address will be there as well. But reach out to her, find out from her how she can help you. And at the very least, go buy her books, for goodness sakes.
Thank you. Yes.
Ileen, this is about all the time we have. Stay with me for just a minute after we go off air. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed meeting Ileen, just like I have, learning her story. There's so much more that she could share with us. So I'm going to invite her back for many more episodes, I'm sure. Thanks so much for being here, Ileen.
Thank you.